Live, 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 live. No music needed for this one. This is straight up, like, right off the bat. Darshan, what's going on? How's business? What's new in the fraud world?
I'll tell you what's new in the fraud world. What's new
Okay.
right now is everyone's trying to buy everyone else. Are you seeing this, or is it just me? Where I'm
Oh,
getting a lot of reach outs from sites who are being bought or being approached by private equity,
mm-hmm.
by sort of venture capitalists
Yes.
who are going, "We want to buy."
Yeah.
Um, what do you think is happening? Why are people? Why is now that time?
Consolidation. I think all that money on the sidelines and inflation, like, and the interest rates being high, caused a shift in let's do less risky investments, and what's more of a bread and butter, tried and true, are the research sites. And by the way, all this new tech anyways, all this new tech, like, the new trend is site centricity. So if you can own those sites and you can use them as your sandbox, there's a lot of, like, ancillary value that I believe come from these sites. Plus, the VCs or whomever, they want to flip them to a PE, right? And then the PE
Mm-hmm.
will have, like, a portfolio of sites.
Right.
So I think it's multifactorial, to sound smart, a smart word. But I really think it's the high interest rates, like all these high tech, high risk. The appetite kind of went away for that. That was nice in a low rate market. Now it's like, let's invest in sites that are actually profitable. Like, what a concept! Go go buy something that's profitable, and that's what we're seeing. And the CROs are also doing it. IQVIA, did you hear? A few months back, they bought 300 million. I think they bought, like, a site
Really?
network out of Arizona. 300 million.
I so I don't know if I told you about this, but probably about 2021, Department of Justice came out and said that we are.
Didn't
Hey Dana,
press.
why? Yeah.
Man, we missed you, man. I've been missing you on these conferences, at these live streams. Nice to see you back.
Um, I got to talk to Dan at some point because I talk about diversity as well. So I hear Dan is the guy to know around that.
That's huge. It's
Uh,
huge.
but we'll talk about that hopefully at some point in this conversation, anyways. But I was actually going to say that around um, the M&A space and around the clinical research space, DOJ came out and said that they're targeting clinical research. And in the last, I want to say 2 years,
When
3 years, they've been going after clinical research sites. I don't know if you've seen like that uptick because I have been. They've been going after owners. They've been going after pharmacy techs. They've been going after um, physicians.
the DOJ directly, like, without the
DOJ,
FDA?
DOJ,
So
DOJ.
they have just random, just like the FDA can randomly audit, the DOJ can randomly audit, or what?
No, not quite. So the FDA will go in, they'll
Okay.
find things, and then
Okay.
they'll kind of go, "This is really bad."
Ah, so fraud. So keeping it consistent with the fraud pod theme, I like it.
So going back to the fraud pod thing, here's one that apparently no one knew about. I'm gonna try to give a link.
Yeah.
Uh, Hold on.
Can you put it? You can
I'm
put it.
going to in a second. I'm trying to
Yeah.
here.
But I didn't know. I mean, FDA audits are nothing
Yeah, I'm
new.
gonna share.
Okay.
Present. Share screen.
So you're asking basically, as you're sharing, what do you think? How do you think this ends? This is the new
Well, wait.
SMO?
Can you see it?
Yeah. Richland business owner sentenced to more than 28 years in federal prison for falsifying human clinical research trials. Wow. What did this person do?
This guy was interesting. This
Oh, this is
guy,
Sami Anwar.
Sami Anwar.
This is the dude who was addicted to pain meds
He wasn't
and
addicted. He was holding on to them to avoid a discrepancy in your numbers.
right, but some of the stories I read, because I actually did a full thing on this guy, he was actually using too.
Oh, I didn't know he was using. Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you for
yeah.
finding that out.
Hmm.
So that's been going on, but he's not the only one. So here's
But this dude's just making up, like, patients out of thin air, and the staff is in on it, and he's like pressuring them to do it to you.
Yeah,
This guy's
he was
a
that guy.
terrible.
But
He was a LinkedIn connection, man. Can you believe
was
this?
he really?
I just accept anyone who wants to, and then people were like, "Hey, you're connected to this guy. Are you aware of this? Shame on you." And I'm like, what are you talking about?" And then I had to go research it. I'm like, I guess I am connected to this guy. He never messaged me though.
Thank you, Dan, for adding the not legal or medical advice. Thank you for
Yes,
adding
not
that.
legal or medical advice, but it will scare you shitless, perhaps.
It will scare you. And this is just I just pulled out two while we're sitting here, but I can add more if people are interested.
See, Patty
Uh,
says correct. Dude was high on his own supply. It became a vicious cycle. Like he started out, doing it probably to get the money, and then they got like these pain studies, and then he probably, hey, instead of throwing these away, let me try one. I'm having a crazy day, and before you know it, he's doing it for himself too.
and the funny thing is, it's not just. I didn't even know about this one till right now.
You love the fraudulent stuff.
I mean, it's stuff I get pulled into.
This is like watching a car wreck on the freeway. Florida
But
Research Hospital agrees to pay more than 19.5 million to resolve liability relating to self-disclosure of improper billing for clinical trial costs. So they're double dipping.
yeah,
Perfect. Yeah.
which is a huge issue.
That's
But
DOJ stuff right there. Yeah, of course.
that's DOJ stuff. But here you got Office of Research Integrity. This goes into grants and falsification of data, fabrication of data,
Eh.
plagiarization.
So I read an article. I wish I had it. This is why I wish I was prepared for this. On this topic about academia
Uh
and the
huh.
amount, like maybe you're the one who sent this to me. The amount of fraud in academia is like super
Oh
high.
my God! Here, I'll pull up some
You
more.
have,
Just
this article, right? That I'm talking about.
I've read so many articles I don't even know.
Okay.
Here's one.
But like the system incentivizes that because no one's paying attention to these people's grants. The investors or the future grants depend on the outcomes of
Yeah.
your current grant. So
Here-
there's pressure, and it's usually one person in like an office doing the whole thing.
It the it's not just one university. It's not just small sites. It's all over. And what we're seeing is the problem continues. I mean, this is the Sammy Anwar case is probably the worst one.
Oh yeah,
But
this dude. I mean, I don't. I think that's a once in a generation event.
but but here's the funny thing: like people,
He'll get out and want to do a DCT startup.
I'm not touching that. I'm
I
so
will.
not touching that. Um, here's the thing. I think DCTs have a role. I think COVID demonstrated that DCTs have a role. I
Of course they
think
do.
I think the issue is what is that role, and I think DCTs that are successful are just called clinical trials. And I think I was talking to someone, not that I want to say like in the last week, who said that DCTs recently had like a coming to Jesus moment. I missed that coming to Jesus moment because I'm still seeing a lot of
Yeah.
like buzz around it. I think
DCT are
these,
just tools.
but that's exactly it. I think when you stop calling them DCTs and you go, here's clinical research, here's how you do it in a
Yeah.
way that's patient centric.
But the problem and site centric, patient centric, that's like the new theme. Well, patient centricity has always been the theme. At least it should be. The thing with DCT is like no one's arguing e-consent's better.
Right,
It's awesome to reach underserved communities with telehealth. Like, of course,
right.
the problem is when the money people come in, they say, "Well, how can we make this proprietary?" Because at the end of the day, it's just an iPad and like, how are you? What's so special about that? So they complicate it on purpose in order to stand out when you don't need that. And then they convince some pharma that it's the next best thing and you can't do it with anything else. All technology is a deflationary force. So it's a race to the bottom. That's all
I
it is.
love Patty's comment, not justifying anything unethical. You want to add that on? Yeah.
Sorry, Darshan's going away real quick. Not justifying anything unethical ever, and want to remind folk that when ethics is entangled with someone's real life, someone can feel that pressure and respond in an uncharacteristically OMG way.
So I would actually add to that. So the funny thing is, I've actually had to defend some of these clients. I don't even have to go to Theranos, for example. I've actually had clients who were accused of research fraud.
Hmm.
And the thing is, in many cases, it's not research fraud. In many cases, it's being able to defend it. And they saw everyone around them do it, but they're the ones who got picked. So the issue is often a slippery slope. This is okay. What about this? This is okay. What about this? This is okay. What about this? And then someone goes in, that's not okay. And
Yeah,
those individual pieces is what got people into trouble.
yeah.
I think that's one element. I think going to this point, ORI actually came out, and Patty makes a mention of it a few seconds ago, but ORI actually talks about, for those people who don't know, ORI is Office of Research Integrity. ORI actually talks about redoing the entire research appeal process for clinical trial sites.
Hmm.
And what is that going to look like? Because they're asking for a lot more transparency. So if you are a large hospital, if you are getting PHS funding, you need to be really, really careful about this because it's going to change how you engage in any kind of federally funded research. So that's going to be kind of
FFP is
interesting.
definitely different than sloppy and not knowing. FFP would be
I don't
something
actually know what
fraud.
FFP is.
Something fraud.
It could be. I don't
It's
know.
got to be
What is
fraud. Maybe fraud pod. What's FFP, Patty? I love Patty. You come on all the live streams. You produce so much like good content for us. Thank you so much for that, Patty.
But so going back to the point we were making, I think sites, SMOs need to be aware about what's going on. They need to update their processes. They need to actually, DOJ is actually looking into this. They actually put out a guidance on how do you have a compliance program that is consistent with their policies. And that came out in March of 2023. And there was a voluntary self-disclosure guidance. There was a employment guidance. And the reason I'm mentioning all of this is if you're in the SMO world where you're trying to buy an SMO or buy a site, this stuff will come out.
Yeah.
And if it's going to come out, you want to know what you're putting out because you're going to have to expose everything so that someone can buy you. And when that comes out,
the SMOs became a bad word in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
This reminds me of that, like all this, and they're calling it other thing. They're calling it site networks now.
Right. It's another word of describing the same thing.
It's the same thing, basically. It's just on an even bigger scale now.
I think it's different versions. Like I was just talking to someone literally 15 minutes ago before I jumped onto our call today. There was that original version, which is we're going to save everyone money. It's going to be more efficient, and it turned out not to be more efficient. Then there was another version where we'll just sort of do the marketing function. Then there was one version that was we will also give you data. And then there's the one, I think that this is the one that's going on right now, which is we will own all the sites. And they all have their own pluses and minuses and goods and the bads. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be careful because doing it, you will, as part of a purchase and sale process, have to demonstrate and show what you have. Oh, fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. There you go.
And Patty says, look at MDACC.
Yeah. Yep, there's that one as well.
I don't know what this one is, but they made up a bunch of patients. PI was not named. I asked why not, as he had oversight of the CRC, and they didn't do it. So why would the CRC? I guess they really were being paid on incentives, or I don't know what's the case in that one. Like usually the CRC does.
There were a couple of cases, but they went after the CRC, I believe.
Usually the CRC does what they're told. So I'm wondering if that site pays the CRC based on enrollment. That gets into other stuff, like legal employment issues that Darshan will be called in for. A lawyer's job is never finished, man.
It's not just that it's never finished. You're called in at like the worst time. Everything's gone wrong. We could have fixed this early, which is why, again, I try to work with sites to actually stop them from having these problems before they become a big issue. And hopefully it's up enough there where in the end, they can sell the company for a very tidy profit. But the funny part is, what a lot of people forget is that when you sell your site, you're often going to have to keep working there.
Yeah.
So if
Contingency.
well, not just a contingency. You in the end, unless you're talking about a massive site, it's you and maybe 2 investigators and maybe like 3 or 4 personnel, but you're a major component
Hmm.
of that group. So if
Hmm.
that's true, you're selling because you don't want to be associated with the problems you have, and you're like, I just want to move away from it.
Um, so I've gone through this process a few times with a small site, and I
Yeah.
learned a few things. And I'm getting offers right now for Yuma clinical trials. Hit me up, guys, if you're interested. But I'm still growing it. So we have 5 PIs, we have five
Yeah.
coordinators, we have a couple sub-Is. What I learned the first time around, 2010, 2012, is you get a higher multiple if you have built a system that does not depend on you. So I learned that relatively early. So I'm at the point now in my Yuma clinical trials where I think I'm only on DOA log for like 2 studies, and going forward, I might not even be on the DOA log for any of them. My role is I don't even do the QA anymore. We have people do that. My role is really getting the studies, matching them up with the doctors, helping the recruitment initiatives. Like, I'm not fully replaced, but the
Right.
point is, I building my site with this in mind already.
Right.
That a buyer, when they come in, I mean, if it's dependent on you, it's a lower multiple than the alternative of it not being dependent on you and on systems instead. So, but you're right, Darshan. Most people, when they sell, they don't think about these things. And
And the idea would be, if you want to stay, you may have to stay on. And if you're going to stay on, you're going to be in the same muck that you sold.
hmm
And now someone's looking at you going, I can't believe you have this muck. You'd rather clean this up and then work with a clean slate with fresh investment in a way that you're happy to be there.
yeah, you definitely don't want to buy a liability. And
Exactly.
going through this due diligence process, like I've been talking to a few already.
Yeah.
We're probably two years out, maybe, from if we sell. We're still not guaranteed, but they don't ask about what's your QA, like the quality assurance. They just ask financials, and that's it. Like,
Well, depends on how sophisticated the buyer is, and
yeah,
depends on how much of the due diligence you've done.
yeah.
Like, I've done the due diligence for a lot of these places.
So what do you look
And
at?
so again, it depends on how deep who's doing the audit. Is
Yeah.
it under attorney-client privilege? Who are you sending in? Do they know what they're looking for? What are the risks they're seeing? How do they see this fit in? For example, this entire thing may be a play for data, in which case most of it doesn't matter. All you really want to know is, do the sites control the data? Do they actually own the data? If it doesn't, I'm not interested in the buy sale anymore.
I
On the
see.
other hand, if it is a private equity thing and they're trying to go, you know what, we want to buy these sites because we're buying a doctor's office, this just comes with it. It's an add on. I've been part of those transactions.
Hmm.
And in those situations, what you're really looking at is this is a minor piece of a much bigger pie. So the data, the numbers are what I care about.
I got
Um,
you.
and then it might be a different version, which is, I want to know if you're a really good site because I'm building a site network and I want to be in the research space. In
Hmm.
which case, again, I want to look at what kind of 483s you got, what kind of warning letters you have. Do you have ORI issues? Do you have DOJ issues? Do you have FDA issues? What kind of oversight do you have? Do you have the quality function you were talking about? Again, different things for different goals. And
Right.
you want to have those conversations. Some companies will say, I only invest in sites that are $1 to $2 million because I want
Right.
to buy 5 of those.
Hmm.
Some will say, I want to buy 50 sites that are 10 million and above, and this is a $200 million deal because I'm buying in bulk.
You're talking gross when you
Yeah,
say those numbers. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, yeah, of
Mhm.
course. Revenue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're talking about multiples, depending on what you're talking about. So it could be a variety of things, but it's been a really interesting area, and sort of it dipped a little bit, but 2024 you're seeing that rise back up again.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting. Is anyone else sort of in that space? Has anyone kind of been dealing with it?
So a stellar CRA says these sites have so many red flags, but don't seem to want to try and fix the concerns brought to their attention. All right, Darshan, I was gonna ask you about this, and then we'll get to Daniel right now. Oh, well, let's get
Yeah,
to
he's got a
Daniel
good
first.
comment. Yeah,
Yeah, let's get to Daniels first. Here's what folks who are buying investing do not want to hear. Sites need money investment to
right.
crystallize. Exactly right. Streamline
Exactly.
and secure strong regulatory. Yeah, you should have if you're gonna sell, you should have this already. That's part of the business.
Yeah.
Secure strong regulatory and operational compliance and prep for scale, which leads to a well-oiled machine. Yeah, you they don't want to
Here,
hear that. They want to see this
here's
already in place.
but the funny part is, depending on who's buying and how sophisticated the buyer and the seller are, and
Yeah.
I see this all the time where the sellers don't know who they're selling to, so they think that they're unsophisticated and they think that they can like sort of play, be sort of hide things, and then you'll see it on the buyer side where they're like, "We're too sophisticated. We only care about multiples," and you're like, "No, you really should be caring about a lot more than that." Um,
What's a lot more? Like when they call you in, what are you looking at?
well, I'll give you a simple thing. Like, when was the last audit you did? When was the last self audit you did? What does your quality improvement process look like? Do you have a compliance program? What are you considering in the compliance program? Is it consistent with HHS's seven elements of a compliance program? Do you even have one of those? Probably not. I'd be surprised if the
Not the
average
last
small
part.
site has that.
Not the last part. But we have QA people rotate on studies and they send
How
monitoring
often do they go in?
report. It's every week they send a monitoring report to the lead
Okay,
CRA. So
and
we have
and
paper trail
and
and
what happens
everything.
if they find something?
We fix it
And how often do they find something?
every time.
Good. That's a good sign, and
But
that's the
like if
funny
they're
part.
minor, they're like this is
Maybe,
missing. Yeah.
absolutely, but the idea is, if you aren't finding something, is your quality check a good check?
Right, 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 right.
And
Yeah.
and that's what people miss. People think that you want to have like clear quality reports, and that's not
But this
that.
last thing you brought up about AHHS, no, what the heck is this, man? We don't do that. We
So
need
here,
this
this is standard in
standard.
this is super standard.
We don't do it.
So first of all, I'm gonna hold on.
But we do
This is
have the
what
QA
HHS
program. I
did.
think the QA program is super important for sites. Like it was supposed to be me, and then I knew I couldn't do it. So we have our usually our best CRA Academy graduates do that, and then they'll send weekly reports to the lead, and then we discuss as a team how to fix it and all that.
So this is what I was talking about.
General Compliance Program Guide.
And you
Wow,
want
it looks riveting reading. What 90
to
what's like what do we get out of this? Because
you,
I
you want
haven't
to have
heard of
seven elements in there, and I'm trying to like, these are the laws you need to follow.
this is why I like having Darshan. I learn something new. I get scared every time I talk to you. And then I learn something new every time also. So balance.
Hopefully, it adds some value.
Balance. Yeah, it adds the balance. Like scared shitless and then but also like enough like hope that everything's gonna be okay.
Everything's going to be okay, Dan. We can always work and fix things. Here are the seven elements we were talking about: written policies and procedures, compliance
Okay,
leadership,
first of all, let's
training.
go. Number one, everyone's got this. SOP. I mean, right? You need SOP.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. All right, go ahead.
compliance leadership and oversight. So
Yeah.
is the person, for example, and I've seen this, where they will make the HR person compliance leader, and you're going, how are they qualified? Oh, because we decided. Well, that's not good enough. How are they trained?
You need a
And that
training, like an audit trail of training.
you want all of that
Yeah.
as well, for sure.
Mhm.
Effective lines of
A lot of these
communication.
tools, a lot of these tools have built-in training now, which is really cool. Like Creo, they have their
Mhm.
Creo Academy. So
Right?
anyone that we put on like as QA, like I've been telling you, these are our CRA Academy graduates, but I get the
Mhm.
best ones from Casey. So they already have their CRA Academy certificate. Then I ask Casey, hey, who do you recommend? Like, give me two or three for
Mhm.
this quarter. They give them. Then we put them in like these vendors have their own trainings now too, like
Mhm.
Creo. They have their own, so you get a little bit of this. I
You have
think,
elements of all of this. It's
yeah,
connecting all these different moving parts and
yeah.
putting them together. It's the HHS OIG portion that I'm referring to here. Again, super standard. Um,
All right, keep going. What's the training education number 3, number 4?
Effective lines of communication with the compliance officer.
Okay.
So, for example, do you have like a tip line that there are fraud issues? Like Sami Anwar, how would you have caught it if there was some way to complain about him? Another one is
Regular employee meetings. Does that count or no?
no, probably not, because people need to be able to feel like they can reach out to someone in confidence,
Anonymously. Okay.
anonymously. Exactly.
So you can email me, sending everyone an email. Hey, you can email me or call me with any concerns. Like that's covered.
That might be it, but are you qualified to be a compliance person?
Well, if I'm not, then who is at our side? I mean,
Well, that's the question, and
yeah.
that's the question that you start getting into. And again,
Or
this
are you
might be.
saying we should outsource this, like to like a third party?
I do this for sites from time to time.
I see.
Um, they need someone that they know that the information will be held in confidence.
So they would want like protection from me in
Right.
theory. Like
Sometimes,
if
possibly,
I'm
yeah.
the one doing the fraud, my coordinator
Correct.
is not going to come to me and say, "Hey,
Right.
they rather go someone
Right.
neutral."
Correct.
I see. We don't have that in that case.
Yeah. Enforcing standards, consequences, and incentives.
Enforcing
And
standards, consequences, and incentives. We do quarterly employee reviews one on
that's
one that are documented. We
what
have that.
happens if someone's bad.
It's written on the review and like
That's good.
improvement suggestions, and we'll meet
That's
next
good.
quarter to reassess.
Do you have a PIP? You
What's
might put
that?
them on a PIP, performance improvement plan.
No.
So you might put them on that depending on what you have. Sometimes they may need to be fired.
Yeah, we haven't had that yet though.
But that's the point. The idea needs to show that you're considering all these options, that you're talking
Performance
about these things.
improvement.
Plan.
Performance improvement plan. Every fraud pod, I get something new. First, I get scared shitless, and then I get this is. Hopefully, you guys take the same journey with me when we have Darshan on. Scared
You're very
shitless,
kind.
but but then there's hope, and there's things you can do. Like I think most of the sites watching don't have pip.
I'd say most sites don't have these 7 elements. I'd say 85% of sites. You'll have about 15% that do, just to be clear. But they're larger sites for
So
the
you're
most
saying
part.
85% of the sites don't have one. They're missing something, one or more of
Yeah,
these 7.
correct.
That makes sense. Yeah. Risk
At least
assessment,
it's
auditors.
85% I deal with. Now it might be
Yeah, I'm
100%
trying.
everyone else does, but yeah.
I think we have elements of all of them, but
Right.
not to your satisfaction. So we probably need to fix that too.
Yeah. We can always talk.
Number 5, enforcing standards.
Yeah. And this means things like, you know what? They aren't someone didn't know. So how do you tell them, look, we're gonna have a monthly check-in, and you need to understand the importance of this. We're gonna record that we had this conversation. If this happens again, we might have to let you go. Or we're gonna do one more training. If it's not taking, we tried twice, you're done.
So is that like a write up, like writing
Yeah,
up?
a write-up is part of that, absolutely.
I try
So
to
you
not
could,
do write ups, but we do the quarterly reviews, and we don't have the PIP. So I think I need to implement that. And
yeah.
then the incentives. What do you mean by incentives? Like your
So
raise,
here,
your raise is associated with your performance type of
with
thing.
quality and compliance.
hmm hmm
So here, this actually comes not trying to get. Oh, there we go.
But we'll come back to 6 and 7 because I want to get into this. This is like something new to me that's I think really interesting.
Um, so you're trying to connect this, for example, with this. So do they have a well-designed compliance program? Is it applied earnestly and in good faith? Is it adequately resourced and empowered? Does it actually work in practice? This is from the
Does
Department of Justice,
corporation compliance
from the
program?
criminal division of the Department of Justice.
Uh oh. The Hall of Fame of that is Samir Anwar. uh, Interesting. Okay. I mean, If you here's the reality of this though, Darshan.
Yeah.
If your site, like let's say your site gets a warning letter, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you are a purchasable asset anymore, in my opinion.
I disagree with that statement.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't buy it.
100%. I think you're very purchasable. You need to demonstrate how you fix things. So you then go back to here's how we fix this. The FDA was happy. You know what's better than having a compliance program no one's commented on? A compliance program where the FDA says we're satisfied.
But how do you get like okay, let's say you get a warning letter, which is
Yeah,
a bad thing. I
great.
think everyone would
But then they
agree.
close it out.
Well, but what like okay, so hold on. They send you a warning letter. They give you like action items or something to
So the
do
FDA
or
will never give you action items.
so what are
FDA
so
says,
how do you
so they'll say,
reply?
here are the problems.
Yeah.
And I like to say the FDA will give you enough rope to hang yourself. So you decide what the appropriate response is. You propose it. If FDA agrees with you, great. If not, they'll tell you that's not good enough. But they aren't going to tell you what to do.
So that's when sites usually hire you then.
I'll get called in at those times as well.
Is that your favorite?
All of this is my favorite. I love doing this.
My point is, by the time it gets to criminal division of DOJ, you're done.
I've dealt with people in that space as well.
I mean, there's the last thing they're thinking about is their site at that point.
The site is the least of your problems. If you're dealing with criminal
Yeah.
division, I mean, it's not
I
the
mean,
least of your problems. It's an issue for sure. But yeah.
yeah. This is But what were you saying about this though? Like what?
So my point is, you have to keep all this in mind, and then connect it to this, and connect it to the FDA.
Okay. Can we finish? Let's finish 6 and 7, then go to
There we
that
go.
lessons learned thing because that's interesting too. 6 is risk assessment, auditing, and monitoring. So that's kind of, in my example, our QA people
Yeah.
monitoring.
But again, you're thinking more from just an FDA perspective. How does this, for example, tie to reimbursement? Now, remember this part. Oh, not this one. This one. This wouldn't show up in your FDA audits.
Right. But
So,
we're not a hospital or anything. I mean, we don't deal with Medicare at our site.
so that's the thing. Your site may not, but
Yeah.
there are sites that, in fact, I'd say 80% of my contracts, when I review them, have a component in there saying you've got to bill Medicare or Medicaid at least twice and get rejected before you bill me.
Okay. So it gets complicated the bigger the institution.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is all this happening.
This page right here is golden. Page 32 of this HHS thing is gold.
Yeah.
Buried somewhere on the Ethernet. Number 7, responding to detected offenses and developing corrective action initiatives. Okay, like CAPA plans and stuff.
Basically a CAPA plan, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's my point. They aren't discovering anything new.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying the same things you're doing in FDA audits, and so is the DOJ. But it's how do you bring it all together? What are the things the FDA and DOJ care about right now?
Yeah. When I notice, like at my site, a major or not even major, just like a deviation.
Yeah.
One that would affect patient safety. We do a CAPA plan without anyone asking us. Like we'll do it in house ourselves, and then when the monitors come, they're usually happy that we at least did that.
Yeah, but the questions you start getting into is how much of it are things that affect a sponsor, and how much of it are things that are internal to the site, and what do you have to produce? And again, one of the other reasons I get hired is because I have attorney-client privilege. So you don't disclose anything that's attorney-client privileged if you can help it.
But what do you mean? Like you?
So I'm trying to think of a situation I can talk about. Let's say I hire a auditor to go in, and I go in there and with the auditor, I give a report, and I say you have these fundamental problems in your SOPs. What'll happen at that point is if that's sort of not under attorney-client privilege, people can ask for it. FDA can ask for it. OIG can ask for it
from you.
No, from you. I'm not allowed to give anything. I'm legally bound from not giving that not legally,
Yeah,
ethically bound.
yeah.
I'll
But
have to go to
FDA can
jail
ask
before I give
us.
it.
FDA can ask us right now, like for your SOP.
Correct. Except you can say attorney-client privilege. I can't give it out. I refuse to waive my right, and the
Oh,
FDA
you
has
don't
to
have
accept
to
that.
give it to them.
Correct.
But then they're
That's the
going to come
advantage
back with
of
a
attorney-client
vengeance.
privilege. But
Then they're
again,
coming back.
well, they might, but it depends on what you're dealing with, right? So
Don't you
that's
recommend like deal with them nicely though? As
100%. I always recommend dealing with them nicely.
yeah,
However, there's dealing with them nicely, and then there is giving them more than they need. If they're asking a question about A, don't answer about B. No
I
one asked you
see.
about B.
So if they ask you, like an example would be if they ask you for your process of consent SOP
Right.
and you send them your entire SOP for everything.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
That'd be an example. And now they go, oh, you've given me the entire SOP list. I want to now look at these two things. And you're like, crap, I want to keep that confidential. Well, you open the door.
Yeah, don't do that, guys. Don't be silly. All right, can we go to that other screen? That was DOJ. People will rarely make it this deep into the internet, but Darshan, this is what you're amazing, man. He curates the importance for us. From this entire 21 pages, you get those lessons learned thing. Where was that? It was down on this thing further. Um,
Oh, lessons here.
yeah, you were saying that you got to implement these things for, uh, like, from the perspective of the DOJ.
Yeah, the
Does it
DOJ
work
asks
in
these three
practice?
questions, but it
Mhm.
goes into all of these. This is from the Justice Manual.
So the three questions they ask, the fundamental questions a prosecutor should ask: is the corporation's compliance program well designed? Is the program being applied earnestly and in good faith? In other words, is the program adequately resourced and empowered to function effectively? And the third one, does the corporation's compliance program work in practice? Okay.
Patty, just so you know, this is actually from 2023.
Patty's killing it right now. She wrote an article with these comments. Let's go. That is the definition of scientific misconduct. What is not acceptable? Do you have an opinion about Brzezinski?
I haven't looked into the case, so I can't comment about it.
Which is Brzezinski, the Obama's advisor,
No, I don't think so.
or is
I
this
think
a
it was
recent?
investigators, my recollection, but I could be wrong.
The only one I know is Big Brzezinski. Have to be more holistic with an audit and know when to call in for help. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Darshan would be the guy for that.
Thank
And
you.
then, yeah, no problem. You're the first guy I'm calling if we ever get into some issues. But you were saying, and I want to get back to this, we should be calling you before. So I want to ask you, like, just honest thoughts on this. HCCA, Healthcare Compliance Association,
Great.
provide excellent training.
Yeah.
Do you know about those?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And where is this doc? Is this
Like I
the
said, this
somewhere buried on the interwebs?
yeah,
There's the
he's the
URL
oncologist.
right
Yeah.
there, justice.gov/criminal-fraud. I mean, I guess they'll take you to close enough, and then
No, I
just message Darshan. He'll send you the
yeah,
link.
happy to send whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh,
I was gonna ask you. So you were saying sites. Okay, sites usually call you in when it's too late. Like, hey, you would have rather have
fixed it
worked
up
with them
front.
earlier.
Right.
Okay, so in those cases where you have worked with those proactive sites that you were able to fix things before it got
Yeah.
messy, what are some of the examples? Like, if you can,
I can't name sites and stuff.
no, you
Right.
don't name sites, but like the things they were doing that were fixable.
I mean, it's everything from training issues to consent issues to
Mhm.
sort of written descriptions to DOAs to. I mean, it's the whole gamut. I think different sites have different issues that they have to deal with.
Have you noticed that monitors catch these things adequately or no?
No
No.
monitors. No, my experience is monitors catch. They're either how should I put
Even the
this?
very good ones?
I mean, I don't. To me, I'm agnostic to what they think
Okay.
is a good one, right? I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
care if
okay.
you think I'm looking at 15 different studies and I'm going, here are things I'm seeing. I don't care
Okay.
who the monitor is. I'm seeing
Yeah.
this across 4 studies.
Because I think
So
most sites, I ask because most sites are like, well, we at least have the monitors looking this over, and if
they're
they
not.
find no issues with us, then I think we're good.
Yeah, that's not obviously that doesn't work because I've done this. I've done this at major major hospitals, and I've done this at small sites, and
I see.
yeah, that's not
So
true
the monitors miss these things
all the time.
regularly.
Um,
Interesting.
this I think you might want to show again for a second.
Okay. Yeah. Deputy
So
Attorney General Lisa O. Monaco announces new safe harbor policy for voluntary self-disclosures made in connections with M&A. You're about to kill a bunch of deals, Darshan, with this.
well, no, this is the good news. The good news is if you are buying a bunch of sites and you
Mm,
find problems and you self-disclose them
I see.
within a particular period, I think they said start off with about 6 months. We're willing to consider more.
Hmm.
We will not see you, the buyer, in the same way as we would have after those 6 months are over. So the point is, do your due diligence, find out the problems, which is why I'm telling sites fix those problems, because now they have the buyer has an incentive to find and report you.
Got you. Okay. And if the buyer is like pissed off at you for other reasons, they're more likely to do this.
Well, buyers
Um,
otherwise taking on the liability. Why would I, as a buyer, take on the liability
right,
of
right.
everything you've screwed up?
I think this would be for major like fraud, not for like just negligence, right?
I mean, yeah, it's not negligence typically, but negligence at a certain point becomes recklessness, right? When you keep
Right, right,
ignoring.
right. I'm just talking like routine stuff, like a DOA missing, certain things, like not making up patients.
Right, right. A DOA missing is bad, but not terrible. I
Right,
mean, it's
right,
fixable. Like
right.
fix it immediately, obviously.
Yeah.
But simple things like, you know what? I missed the informed consent form. I can't find it. Well, find it, figure it out, talk to the patient, get something else in place, like get it in
Yeah.
place,
And
notify all that good
that's a
stuff.
major thing, but it's not fraud.
Right,
Yeah.
but you've done this for 50 different studies. Now we're in a different world altogether.
Yeah, good point. These people buying all these sites and putting them together, they're going to have to hire a workforce like no other. I mean, they're almost going to create their own layer of monitors.
Yeah, and they
And
should.
and then so the CROs, I mean, they'll have their own CRAs, but those will be the best sites, the easiest sites to monitor in the history of research.
And I think that's the point I'm making, which is
Hmm.
before you go in and try to sell your site, know that this is all happening in the background.
Yes. It's important to have this in the context. So what is this thing you pulled up here?
So this is the DOJ's criminal division pilot program, incentives and clawbacks. Let me see if I can pull up the portion I care about.
So catchy title for this will be clinical research coordinators getting arrested. We'll get a lot of views.
Well, I'm not even gonna. Yeah, you're better at
Darshan,
titles than I am.
you love coming on my show, man. You love it.
I do love it every single time. We have a good time.
Yeah, we do. We've been doing this way too long.
We've been doing this for 15 years.
Are you still on Twitter or X now?
I am, but I don't use it as much. Do you?
Yeah.
Do you really? I should
I
probably
don't
do it
post
then.
that much. That's the one where I'm like a lurker more. But it's fun.
I think you're right. I think I should be doing more. We'll get there.
Well, yeah, we get there.
But again, here's what they want.
The program also directs division prosecutors to consider possible fine reductions
Which
where
means that they will
companies
consider finding those people if they have supervisory authority.
seek to recoup compensation from culpable employees. Holy moly.
Yeah.
And others who both had I love how legal documents are written. A had supervisory authority over the employees or business areas engaged in the misconduct, and B knew of or were willfully blind to the misconduct. You don't mess with the government, bottom line.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff happening.
So it's a favorable market for buyers then.
It's
Like
it's
regulations
also for
seem to
sellers,
be
right? If
aligned
you
with
fix these problems, you're better than most other places. Like they want, for example, all the stuff I was showing you so far, they're all saying we want to have compliance in that M&A transaction. We want to know that these guys are serious. And
Yeah,
that's why I lined up representing all these companies.
makes sense. So you're busy, man. Like these guys, oh, with all these M&A, you're you're getting like a good amount of these deals.
I'll work through some of these deals for sure.
If our site were to hire you and say, hey, we're not really in any issues right now, but we
Yeah,
do, I'm a little worried. We have like a newer staff. We're not even 3 years old as a company.
right.
Um, I'm trying to remove myself more from the operation, so I'm not like necessarily doing QA.
Yeah.
What would you like? Where would you look at first at a site like mine?
So at a site like yours, I'd probably want to start off with, first of all, talking to you and going, you know what? Why don't you tell me the 5, 6 things that you are concerned about? Because the truth is, what you're concerned about is probably the tip of the iceberg, but
Hmm.
it is the tip of the iceberg. So start with those considerations. Now, then I'm gonna go overall. And again, this is sort of I'm giving you the platinum plan, if you will, right? There's
Yeah,
a gold silver version of this as well,
and the
but
bronze,
then
the
there's the
bronze is
bronze as
these
well.
videos you guys watch.
So the platinum version of this plan is sort of doing. Here's where you should be. Here's where you are. Here's the gap. Now you've told me here are 5 things you're worried about. Are those 5 things a symptom of a larger problem, or are they the problem itself?
Hmm.
So if you're not doing informed consent, is that because someone just doesn't have the paperwork, or you don't have PIs? That's a
Well, that's
different discussion.
terrible. Not doing informed consent. Yeah.
I'm not saying you're doing any of these. I'm sort of saying,
No,
how
no,
would
but
you
that's
go
a
about
terrible
analyzing?
one. Yeah.
Right.
I think most sites would say, and mine included, hey, you know what? Like, we're kind of relying on monitors to catch our deviations. We're designing our source to make it
So,
like foolproof, but I
so
think these
let's
wouldn't be
address
the
that one,
problem.
right? Let's just
Yeah,
pick that one.
yeah.
That means you don't have a quality program.
Well, we have one, but it might have holes in it that we're not aware of.
No, my point is a quality program would be one that actually catch. A quality program has 3 components.
Hmm.
One is SOPs, one is training, and one is audits.
Right.
One of those elements doesn't exist. You don't know if people are following your policies or your training. They could be doing everything right, but if it's not in compliance with your own policies, it's useless.
So we got to get our QA people looking at this then.
Right.
Hmm.
And that's just picking on one element.
Right.
Um, you're depending on someone else's quality people to do it. How do you know how good those people are? You don't. And the argument is, well, I had 5 different people look at it, but they were all looking for something that they care about. They don't know how your site functions,
Yeah.
and purposefully so. They shouldn't need to know how your site functions.
So if you're a site that's reached the level of profitability and stability, you should really look to QA as an important investment
Yeah. Um,
for the next
at the
stage
very
of
least, so that you can sleep at night. I've worked
yeah,
with sites who go, "This is painful, but I know that it's helping me sleep at night a little bit better."
right. What's the painful part? Like the price or what
Well,
are
it's a combination of price, but it's also like you've got to change your policies, and now you've got these people have to come in and tell you how to change things, right? And you're like, "We've always done this way for like the last 5 years."
hmm.
Yeah, that's why you're here today.
And this year's season not gonna like this too much.
Exactly.
Hey, we
Exactly.
gotta change up how we do things a little.
Right.
I see.
Right.
I think we catch most things, but
I'm sure you do.
I'm always worried, something's gonna fall through and we caught someone today with amylase, so could be pancreatic cancer. We screen failed them, but
Right.
that was because our PI and sub I knew to do that, right?
Right.
Like a coordinator sometimes wouldn't know unless the
Yeah.
clinician's involved. So stuff like that you wouldn't expect.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And maybe you have a policy that says we do screen fail. We have 2 layers of screen fails. One layer of screen fails is sort of the early version, and everyone who's not going to qualify doesn't meet inclusion exclusion criteria. They just screen fail at that moment. And maybe there's a second layer where the physician has to review things. And again, maybe that's. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying based on what you just said,
It's one way
that
to
might
go
make sense.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's interesting. There's always room for improvement, no matter what, no matter who you are.
Correct.
Patty says, folks say the same thing about inspection. We passed one inspection
Exactly.
So we are good all the way around. Maybe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Maybe. This is interesting. I always like bringing you on, man. I feel like I stepped my own game up too by being part of the bronze program in Darshan Kulkarni. But is that a fair thing to say? Your podcast, the free stuff you give is like your bronze layer?
I
And
think I tend to give bronze to silver.
bronze to silver. And then
I
if you want
also
to pay
throw in a couple of
platinum,
platinums every so often. To be fair,
you gotta listen carefully though. But the platinums are in there.
yeah, they are. I try to do that. Hopefully, people get some value out of it.
We
Thanks for
all
the plug for
appreciate it,
Darshan
man.
Talks. But yeah,
We all appreciate it. That's why we like you, man. That's why ever since 2010 when I met you on Twitter, I knew you were someone. This guy, he's going places, and we gotta stay close because this is the FDA. Your name was FDA lawyers
I
back
still
then.
have that handle.
That's enough to convince me, man. I was like, yes, whatever he says, we'll do.
Well, that's the thing. People for a while thought that I actually worked for the FDA. I was like, I do not work for the FDA.
Yeah,
But
it was good. It was good. It's like good
yeah,
marketing.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
But
But
people like it, man. And then hopefully at the next SOS,
I'm hoping to be
we'll
there.
see you there. What conferences do you actually go to like this year?
This
Have you
year,
gone to
I have to
Scope?
go to one because I helped organize it.
Hmm.
And the rest are actually in Philly, so I get to actually just drive
Ah,
up.
okay. And if you're in the
Um,
Philly area, if you want to connect, Darshan's LinkedIn is always wide open.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me throw that up there so people can find me. Um, the the other thing I
Oh, we'll have
think.
it underneath. We'll have Darshan's LinkedIn
Oh, there
underneath
you go.
and in the show notes of this podcast.
But anyway, it's also here in case people want to go. What does this dude look like?
Here he is. Well, that's his news feed, but there he is right there.
That's me.
See, he reads his messages.
I always read my messages.
Boom, we're live, man. That's
I
pretty
did
meta
not know
right
that's
there.
what it does. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's pretty meta right there, man.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
proof. That's proof that we're actually doing this. So everybody's Darshan's LinkedIn is underneath. Go check it out. We really appreciate it, guys. Darshan, I know these fraud pod is a segment, man. We got to figure out. Thank you for reminding me. We got to do these more often.
Yeah, we should probably do this on a routine basis.
I
I'm curious,
agree.
would other people like to hear this on a routine basis, or is it better to do it every so often?
This might be our second or our third fraud pod. No.
I think it's like a third or fourth, honestly, but I could be
Wow.
wrong.
Do you have them all on a playlist somewhere? I need to start a playlist on mine.
I should probably do a playlist. You
I
should
should.
probably do a playlist.
Yeah, I should do the playlist. Okay,
Um,
we'll
but yeah, we
do.
should do this more often. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out if people are interested. If they reach out to you. At this point, I think some of them may have tuned out already. So,
But it's okay. I think the fraud part, I get a lot out of it personally, so I know others will too.
me
'Cause there's a
too.
lot of sites in my situation.
I love talking to you just in general because I think we get a chance to get the word out and we get to talk to
Mhm,
people and
mhm.
hopefully help them make a bunch of money because they
Yeah.
are not exposing themselves to liability.
And what I like about you, not only do you give like actionable stuff like this PIP for me was one big thing and that 7 layer
Yeah,
things, but you always like us at the site level, it's so easy to get caught up in who came in today and did you complete it and did we bill for it? Like the mundane day to day. You
right.
kind of come in and shake us, like wake us up, like, hey, this is serious stuff at the end of the day. Like, look, it goes all the
Yeah,
way back to the DOJ, so be careful.
and that's the thing. I think that's the important part, right? I think we want to contextualize, and the more you contextualize, the better it becomes for all of us. So, Rod has a question.
I got to answer for Rod. And
Okay,
neither.
what's your answer first?
My answer is Alessandro's. That's the closest
Delisandro's.
one. Delisandro.
Delisandro.
My bad. My bad.
And
Delisandro.
I was, I feel like you just got that out of like I was gonna say that, but if I
I've
have to
been there. It's
choose,
so good, man. It's so good. Geno's and Pat's, I would say neither.
I'd go with Geno's. Actually, I like
Yeah.
Geno's.
Okay. Well,
Um,
take it from
but it might
Darshan.
be
He's
more
my favorite.
nostalgia for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I came as
Delisandro's.
an immigrant and I went to Geno's. I've been to Pat's a couple of times. Just didn't do it for me. I like
Yeah.
a lot of cheese.
Any other one that we should know? Like D'Alessandro's to me, that's my go-to whenever I'm in Philly.
Yeah. The thing about Philly people, like I like the gyms and there are a few others. Uh, Rod asking the important questions here.
Yeah.
But no, you know what the weird thing is, and I'm a huge meat eater, but I've been taking Wegovy, which is that weight
Ah,
loss thing. Well, technically,
GLP.
it's I use it for
GLP.
diabetes, but it actually has like weight
Isn't
loss
that the
effects.
GLP-1?
Yeah, it's a
GLP-1?
GLP-1. It's the GLP-1. Um, and what's the thing I was saying? What I found is that my desire for meat has gone down so much because
Ah,
of
from that. Yeah.
yeah, which has been really great. Dan talks about working with Edie, and I love Edie.
Edie was at SOS. She was on the Edie did a
Show them.
great job on that e-source versus paper panel.
Yeah.
She took on the role. We're gonna have the audio soon. She took on the role of the attorney for Team Paper, and I mean, I think she won, but I don't even know how it ended. But I could tell during that panel, like I even told my wife, you wouldn't want to mess with her. Like she came prepared.
Rod's going GLP-1 here for diabetes too. Exactly.
We're doing a bunch of studies on these things here in Yuma.
So
You
I
wouldn't
full
qualify for it because
disclosure,
of Wickover.
full disclosure, I just bought in the last like I don't know 30, 40 days both Novo and Lily's shares. So I should probably disclose that. So I do have those.
Lily's a good one.
Actually, they did really well today. I also today's news was I bought Nvidia yesterday as well. And that
Ooh,
did really well today.
yeah. That's cool,
Um,
man. Darshan's the guy you guys want to connect with. Thank you so much, Darshan. His LinkedIn is underneath this video and in the show notes if you're listening. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll link to his LinkedIn. From there you can find everything. And we're gonna do this fraud pod regularly, man.
we are, and hopefully next time, I already have an idea for what we're going to talk about next time, Dan.
Okay.
And
Any cliffhanger or just leave it like
sure,
that?
how about this? Dan's gonna love it. Dan Perez is gonna love it.
Oh, Dan Perez gonna love it. Okay.
Yeah, and it connects to Federa.
Oh, okay. It's diversity.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for ruining that, Dan.
We gotta do it. We'll
Yeah.
definitely do it. I'll try to bring on maybe one of the gals from LICR, Latinos in Research.
Yeah. There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay, done. Thank you,
Done.
Darshan.
Awesome.
Everybody, go follow him right now. Catch you guys later. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.